Hello everyone and welcome. I'm playing again as an of Democracy. This is as I mentioned before, if you happen not to know this game, this is a Second World War grand strategy game, and this time I'm playing Germany, and I'm at the moment just before the war. I mean, you can see the date is 1937, and I don't know if you don't know, then the war historically started in 1939 September when Germany attacked Poland, and in this game pretty much you have the chance to start it earlier or later even, but I normally go with that date anyway, and I will do some little bit of commentary on what I'm doing in this playthrough. So technology wise, I'm researching heavily in the industrial technologies, the industrial manufacturing technologies, which allows me to have higher industrial output as well as faster production of certain structures. For example, this one allows me faster production of land fortifications and coastal fortifications, which I don't really care at the moment, but later on it might be interesting. The point is that these are needed for unlocking these assembly line technologies, which actually is very helpful for considerably faster production of different type of units. This branch of technologies allow me faster research speed, and these ones, the cryptography technologies, allow me to basically have a combat advantage over enemies who has lower level of encryption or decryption. I already researched agriculture, which are good for manpower increase, and in the armor and artillery branch, I'm rushing at least basic medium tanks. This is 1939 technology, because before I produce tanks, I want to get to as high level as possible, so I don't have to upgrade them later, because this costs really a lot of industrial capacity to upgrade units. I mean, especially such expensive units as tanks. Same with artillery. I want to get to a good enough level, which I already got. I will not research now. Maybe soon I can research this 1940 improved artillery technology, because generally it doesn't make sense to research something more than 2 years before its reference date. I mean, I don't do it because then I only do it in very few instances, but most of the time I don't do it because it is so long then that you could research something else in that time. I have quite many researchers, by the way, so compared to the vanilla, the original Hearts of Iron, where you had maximum 5 tech slots, and as an Democracy you can have a lot more. I don't know exactly the maximum number. Now I have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 slots. Naval technologies, I researched the long-range submarine and the heavy submarine. I might build some of those, but I not really focus on Navy, I think. In aircraft, I went with closer support and interceptors for now. I'm researching tactical bombers at the moment. Fighters, I don't know if I will research, because they're some more expensive. I think about it maybe later. For now on, I need interceptors and a lot of them to counter the Allied bombers on the west front, and I already have tactical bombers, so I can, and they have a nice range, so I research newer technology of them so that I can upgrade them and later build more. But they are more expensive than closer support, so I already started to build a few of these. Yeah, and land doctrine wise, I can blitzkrieg and hospital technologies. I will research it just before the war, because they don't give you too much good. There is some reduction in the armor and the cost of the armored divisions, but actually these are really for the combat, and now I need things which allows me to build as up-to-date units as possible before the war. Yeah, secret weapons, there is nothing here which I don't know if I will research this really now. I don't need it. The same with naval doctrines. These are all 1939 and 40 technologies, and they are for combat, naval combat, which I don't think I will have too much until before 1940. In air doctrines, however, I will research these two branches. This one is generally for the closer support, combat efficiency, and this one is generally for the tactical bomber combat efficiency with some other benefits. And these ones, of course, as well. These branches here are for the I mean, and the interceptor and fighter units combat efficiency. Production-wise, I only improved the infrastructure of really high industrial capacity provinces. Cologne, Berlin, Dresden, Stuttgart, and Open. I think even so, if you can see here, I have, and these are, I mean, even the lowest one is Open has 10 industrial capacity at the moment. I built, I think, maybe one factory in all of these provinces already. So yeah, and I built a long series of transports. First of all, in this game, as a democracy, compared to the other Hearts of Iron games, you have what is called retooling time, which basically is that when you start building a new unit, any new thing, then it takes some time until you actually can start building it. I mean, basically, it represents the fact that you have to set up factories and so on for that kind of production, which is a very good addition, and it makes much more strategical. But it also means that for you, it worth it much more to build actually a series of units. I mean, to set up series of manufacturers of different kind of things. I mean, units or buildings or whatever. Because the retooling is only in the very first. I mean, between the very first instance of that unit production would start. Or if you upgrade it to a new model. So if you, for example, build one armored division, and after you build one again, then you have twice the retooling time before every single build you set up. But if you build a series of 2 armored divisions, then you will have the retooling time only in the very beginning. So it makes sense to set up longer production lines, basically. Yes, and I build Air Force, here a couple of interceptors and closer support, as well as motorized divisions with armored cars. Armored cars give besides some other things, give also organization, which is good for helping winning battles actually. Also, it reduces softness some, which is good for most kind of, for avoiding most kind of damage. In this game, if you are not familiar with the combat mechanics, then there is soft attack and hard attack. Soft attack represents any kind of attack which comes from, which is targeted against, let's say, the personnel, the people, the manpower of the given fighting force. But hard attack is any kind of attack which is targeted against or is used against the armored vehicles of that unit. So, for example, if you want to fight infantry divisions, then you need a soft attack to fight those, especially because their softness is really high. Actually, the softness is if you look at the division, infantry division softness is 100%. Of course, because by default they have no armored units in them at all. And as you add armored units, for example, if you look at an armored division, it has only 30% of softness because it has a lot of armored units inside in this division. And this means that this kind of 30% softness, you have very little chance of harming it with soft attack, and rather you have a higher chance of harming it with hard attack. So this is how it works, and this means. And also, on the other hand, most of the armies have mostly soft attack because. Most of the units of every army in this game, and in most cases, actually consists of. The bulk of the army is infantry. Infantry is high on soft attack and low on hard attack. So it means that you are most likely to encounter enemy units which has more soft attack than hard attack, and much more soft attack than hard attack. So actually decreasing the softness of your units in most of the cases makes sense, because you will most likely decrease your casualties as well. Yeah, so armored cars are really nice. They give some organization, give some softness, as well as some soft attack, defensiveness, toughness, whatever, suppression. And I like to use them with the motorized infantry. Yeah, another production I don't think I have at the moment. Yes, I have a couple of HQs because. The first year I only built a series of factories, and I had the infrastructure in the production queue as well. And I thought about what should I build which I don't have to upgrade later on, and which will be useful and which I will need. And I just built a couple of HQs, because HQs increase, I think, the combat efficiency of nearby units. and it also allows you to attack with more units without having penalties. Basically double the amount of units you can use for attacking without having penalties. And also I think this is 39, I mean the technology HQ 39, so I think it will not be upgraded for a while. This is why I built a few of those. And my force setup is such. These are all the default division, except that I have added HQs to a few of these 3 division corpses. Corps, I don't know, it's plural of it. And everything else is the default setup, and I reorganized my air force so that I have my tactical bombers separated from the interceptors. Interceptors are mostly in the western area. My tactical bombers that closest support are in the east, because the first conflict, I mean armed conflict and armed engagement will be with Poland. Although it is possible that the Czech Republic will refuse to give in to the German demands. In that case, there will be a war with it. So this is why I have a lot of units around this area, because I expect enemy incursions from the east in the beginning. And once Czech Republic is dealt with, then you have to only protect basically the Polish border. Then once you defeat Poland, then I actually go with the standard setup. So first Poland, and after most likely Denmark and Norway in 1940 or late 1939. And in 1940 I should take out the Low Countries as well as France. After that Italy most likely will join the Axis. So this is why actually I have not deployed these transport ships, because I want to have some ships which I can deploy to the Mediterranean area, so I can transport my units over to the North Africa. I don't want to take control of Italy. It's too big of a... I mean, it has too many divisions, and I only rarely take control of them, and I don't want. Now I don't want to do that, so I don't think I will do that. Also, it's quite a big country, so you can do well on his own. I don't know. Also, how realistic would it be that I take control of entire armed forces? So I will just let them do what they want to do, and I might take military control of the smaller countries like Hungary, Romania, and Slovakia. I don't know if I will create it or if I split it with Hungary. I'm not sure about that. Yeah, so I think I will unlock the time. Yeah, so let's let it go. As you can see, I have the production capacity is allocation is somewhat jumping around because sometimes the supply demand increases. Anyway, the moment I have most of my industry capacity into production, and only some in supplies and very little in upgrades actually. Okay, we have finished researching tactical bombers, which I think I will... Okay, let me see. I want to soon start building tanks. And tanks, I will want to put, I think, self-propelled artillery most likely, or maybe tank destroyers, I mean, a mix of it. I'm not sure. Because now I want to research something which I mean, on purpose I didn't build, for example, infantry and tanks and whatever until now, only motorized infantry, because motorized infantry, for example, the first tech is 1938, and after the next one is 1941, which is obviously quite far away, which means that it will not be upgraded for a while. I don't want to build something which I have to upgrade just basically after you build them, because it is a waste of industry capacity in my opinion. Also, I don't need them only 1939 September around. I will need these units. And for Poland, you don't need too many units to crush Poland. It's quite easy actually. By the way, the difficulty is a normal, so this shouldn't be a very hard game necessarily. Although it was some time ago since I last played, seriously this game, so I just need some time to get into it, and later might try some improved difficulty, harder difficulty level. Thinking about now, what should I build? What should I research rather? Yeah. So I'm researching already the 1939 infantry, which I will soon start to building. I mean, once it's researched, I think I will either go with the self-propelled artillery so that I can build those. The question is, do I have a nice tech team for that already? Germany has a very good tech teams for such things. I mean, for armored and artillery things. So let me see. I think yeah, there are at least 2 tech teams which have 4 matching things, which makes no sense. And also this one will soon finish. So I think I'll just research the fighters for now on. Fighters have better range than interceptors, and also have some little bit of use against ground targets, which can be useful. In the Western Europe, I mean, you have really good, I mean, a lot of, smaller provinces and a lot of airports around. So, and also you are most likely mostly just protecting your own airspace instead of attacking. I mean, at least after you conquered France. But on the east, however, you have, as you can see, larger provinces and much fewer airports. So with interceptors, you will have a harder time to cover that much ground, basically, and you have to move them. This means organization loss and so on. So fighters are really useful for the Eastern Front, and also Japan has a very big use of fighters, in my opinion, because Japan, as you can see, if it ever fights in Asia, they has a huge provinces. It means that the distance between 2 provinces are really big. So in a lot of cases, the interceptors can only operate basically maybe in the province they are in, or maybe in one neighboring province, and that's it. Which makes them pretty useless in this theater, in my opinion. Also in this island fight as well, you need range definitely. For me, however, yeah, I can also produce airfields, and actually the province sizes in Ukraine, Belarus, and Western Russia is not so bad. So I can always just put down a few airports and then rebase my airplanes. Although their organization regain and repair will not be really nice. But anyway, some fighters would be really nice. Also, I think fighters, the later technologies, I think they have better stats even against aircraft, the interceptors. Okay, diplomacy wise, I didn't do anything. I'm going towards standing army for the upgrade time reduction and cost reduction. I don't want to go towards center planning because I really hate this very huge long upgrade times and huge cost of upgrading things. I have replaced some ministers with plus industrial capacity ministers, as you can see. And this one I chosen for decreasing consumer goods need. Because, I mean, besides obviously spending industrial capacity for your production line, you also have to sustain your basically population's needs, basic needs. This is abstracted, so you don't really, I mean, it's an abstract number. That is consumer goods basically represents everything what the population needs. I mean, from furniture, food, whatever, everything else you need to spend, or at least what yes, basically, because this industrial capacity that you have in the game, I don't think it represents all the industrial capacity what a country has. It rather represents that part of the industrial capacity which the state can take control of, or which the state can use. Let's say like this. And besides this, there is industry which is not represented in this game. Obviously, for example, small industry, light industry, which is not usable for building whatever any kind of weapons or serious equipment. This is not represented in here, which makes sense because this game is all around war. Basically, it's about Second World War, and everything else is on a side track represented. So you have obviously what you spend in production, then you have to spend a certain amount of industrial capacity into consumer goods, because otherwise you will have dissent. Dissent will basically, it's a very bad thing. It will decrease your industrial capacity, decrease your units' fighting capabilities, and increase your revolt risk in your provinces. So you want to avoid it very much. Yeah. So besides producing consumer goods and producing units and new military structures and equipment. You have to also produce supplies to supply your existing units. This represents all kind of ammunition and everything basically what units need on a daily basis to just stay in shape. And my birds are again very noisy. I cannot really do anything with them, so I'm sorry for that. Reinforcements, obviously, what it tells is that what it means is that in case a unit is damaged, either unit is damaged, then you need to spend manpower to replace the personnel which has died or been injured, and also you need to allocate industrial capacity to replace the lost equipment. Upgrades are upgrading older models of equipment of the units into newer model of equipment, and provinces has to be repaired in this game as well. So if you capture new provinces, those have to be repaired, or if you build some province improvements, let's say even factories, then you have to spend some industrial capacity on it to actually, let's say, to put it in its place. And also if enemy bombs you, enemy bombers attack you, then you need to repair those provinces. Then I like very much how Arsenal Democracy has solved this basically what it did with the money. In a lot of Hearts of Iron games, money is quite useless, but here actually it has a lot of meaning. First of all, I think you generate money from yeah, you can see you generate money from I think from industry, from consumer goods, I guess. From producing consumer goods, and also you generate money from the unused manpower. So if you don't conscript all your people into the armed forces, then you generate more money, which also makes sense. So it encourages you to not use too much manpower. Actually, it has let's say that it has some advantage if you try to keep low the number of people serving in your army. Also, if your army increases, you have to pay more to the soldiers. This is what the military salaries represent actually. Civil expenses, I think this is actually what I spoke about. I don't know exactly how the mechanics, how it works, but I think this is what you need to, what from the money you generate, you need to spend into your civil sphere basically to satisfy your population and not have this cent. I don't spend in espionage now because I'm very low on industrial capacity at the moment. I need to really gear up for the war, but this one, if you allocate some money for this slider, then you can send spies and do certain low kind of intelligence activities in your own country, counterintelligence, or in enemy countries actually. Research funding, you have to actually fund your research team, so it's not just like you have 3 teams running around, but they cost a serious amount of money. Which is again, I think it's a nice improvement over other Hearts of Iron titles. And also, you can see here that if you have, and Germany has by default, some I didn't build any, you have oil plants, which I think converts, energy, coal into synthetic oil. Synthetic material plants, I think, converts oil into rare materials, if I'm correct. So this as well has an upkeep cost, so you have to spend here money as well. Trading wise, very nice interface this game has again compared to other Hearts of Iron titles. You can just set I set everything to automatic, so I don't care about trading. It automatically finds countries which has surplus of the items which I want, of the resources which I want. In my case, I want to import oil and rare materials, because these are two things which Germany will be really or can be really low on later on. For every single industrial capacity to function, that you can use it, you need to spend I think 2 energies, which Germany has a lot of energy. It mostly represents actually coal. 1 metal and half rare materials. Rare materials represent rubber and all kind of rare metals, like tungsten and whatever, what your industry needs to produce certain equipment. The point is that, for example, for my 226 effective IC industrial capacity, which is basically modified of the base IC. This is how many factories I have actually, 166, and there is certain modifiers like technologies, like ministers and worldview and whatever, which increases or decreases this base amount. So this is how much I can spend, 226, and for this I need the half of 813 rare materials per day to be spent. If you hover over this, then it will say that that I use 116. I don't know where it goes, this additional 3, but normally I guess that the additional 3 will be converted into oil, I guess. Or no, I think oil will be converted into rare material. I'm not sure actually what direction it goes. Anyway, so and you use from energy 2 energy per IC. So from this we use 465, as you can see. So you need really and it's per day. So you need a lot of relatively high stockpile of these critical resources, rare materials and oil, before the war erupts. Otherwise, you will have a hard time keeping your economy running. And your economy is not only important for producing new things and upgrading things and reinforcing units, but also the so-called transport capacities depends as well on your economic strength. Basically, your units are somewhere, I mean, in either your own territory or in enemy territory located, and they need to be supplied. The supply and the oil, I mean fuel, has to be transported to those units, and if they don't get it, then they will of course will fight much worse, or in some instances they cannot even fight or move. I mean, if a unit has absolutely zero oil, for example, then it cannot move at all. So this one represents basically how much trucks, railroads, I mean trains and rail transportation capacity and whatever you have, basically to transfer from your own factories and production areas to the front line supply, basically, so that your units can be supplied. Here, if you click a unit, select a unit, then it has 2 bars, the supply and the fuel bars. It tells you that I mean every unit attempts to keep a certain amount of supply and fuel with it, so which can use I don't know for how many days, and when it is getting lower, then it attempts to draw supply from the nearby areas. And basically, this is when this transport capacity will be used. Yes, and what I was saying is that the industrial capacity is directly influencing transport capacity. Actually, transport capacity is calculated from industrial capacity. So the higher your IC is, the higher your TC will be. This also is affected by certain modifiers like technologies, ministers, and whatever, I think. But the main factor is the industrial capacity. So you want to have really a high amount of industrial capacity so that your units will be supplied. Because an unsupplied unit it can only maximum fight in a very, I mean, much lower rate, much lower efficiency than how it could be if it was supplied. Okay, so I want to now go on. As you can see, we researched advanced machine tools, which gave some industrial efficiency increase and gearing limit increase. I think if you produce continuously a series of units, then you get this gearing bonus. Basically, it represents that if you the longer production line of the same unit is set up, basically, the more efficient it will become after a while. I mean, at least time-wise. I mean, it will be producing faster, but I think it will use more resources if I'm not wrong. So now I want to research something else, and I think I researched these. I mean, static anti-air artillery is basically what it says. The name static aircraft anti-aircraft artillery. Basically, these icons here you can see in the provinces. You can. It's really cheap to build them, and you can place it in provinces, and they will attack, I think, all enemy aircraft which flies over this area. So this is somewhat good against bombers, but I will now not spend IC on those. I will try to catch enemy aircraft even before they could get to this area, or even in the air. I mean, even they could before they could start bombing this area rather. So in the air. This is why I'm spending my IC on building aircraft.